Hi everyone, welcome to this video. So today we're going to look at Django's authentication views. Django provides a set of class-based views that can allow us to basically do everything we need to do with authentication. These include login views, logout views. We can also have those that are specific to password management, just like we see, right? Just like we're going to actually see in this video. So right here, I have this small application that we built in the previous video. If you haven't checked it out, it would be good if you go ahead and look at it. But what we have is a simple CRUD tasks app. And what we can do is to create tasks just like you see in this form right here. So all of the created tasks go right here where I will list them. And then you can be able to basically retrieve a specific task, update it, as well as delete it. So we can click the delete button and we should go ahead and delete our tasks just like we see right here. So let's go ahead and try to use Django's authentication views. We attach them to this application so that we can be able to do authentication with this specific app. So to start, I'm going to begin by first of all creating our authentication app, or an app where we're actually going to put all the authentication functionality. So for us to do that, I'm going to go within our project right here and I'm going to create a new app. So let me first of all get rid of or close all the folders that I have in here. I'm going to open up my terminal and I'll go to a new terminal. So I'm going to run money.py start users, and that will create our users app right here. So within this users app, we're going to put all the functionality that is specific to user accounts and authentication. You can call this authentication or any other thing, but I've chosen the name users just to be specific. Now in here, the first thing I'm going to do is to first of all go ahead and register it onto our main project settings. So to do that, I'm going to go right where we have our projects and then settings. So within our settings, I'm looking for the installed apps list, which is right here. I'm going to simply go right here and add our tasks. So actually it's going to be our users app. So some people can do tasks.apps.tasksconfig and others can do users.apps.usersconfig. But also just adding the name of the specific app can also work for our case. So what I'm going to do is to go ahead and basically start by creating an account creation view. So this account creation view is going to make use of the user creation form that Django provides, and it's going to allow us to create user accounts for all the users that will exist within our simple application. So for us to be able to do that, what I'm going to do is to go ahead and begin by first of all going to our users app. So within our users app, I'm going to go to views.py, and since we are creating a class-based view, I'm going to first of all import the view class from which we are going to subclass. So to do that, I'm going to come right here and I'll say from Django. It's actually going to be from Django, and this is going to be .views. We are going to import our view class. So once we have this view class, I'm going to come right here and I'll have to come right here and say that we're going to have our class which is going to be our sign up view. So this sign up view is going to inherit from the view class. Actually, all class-based views inherit from the view class that we have imported from Django.views. So that means we can access whatever properties and methods that we have on the view class. So what I'm going to do is to come right here and provide the view class. So once I've been able to do that, I'll go ahead and define the different HTTP methods that we shall have for this view. So there are going to be two HTTP methods. The first one is going to be for get, which is going to actually help us to render our template. So I'm going to come right here and say self and then request, since this is a view function. Then in here, I'm going to pass it for now. I'll do the same thing for our post request. So I'll copy the same view function right here, or method, and this view method is actually going to be a post method. So we're going to have two methods, and one is going to render the template, while the other is going to help us to create the user account by submitting data to our server and then going ahead to save the user in our database. Another thing that we're going to need for this view is going to be the form that's going to allow us to basically go ahead and save the user to our database. Lucky for us, Django provides the user creation form, which is an inbuilt authentication form that will allow us to create a user account. Now, for us to be able to use it, we can subclass it, which is going to also allow us to modify and add things such as the model, as well as some fields that we may want to include in our form. So for us to do that, I'm going to go ahead and create a new file. I'm going to call this our forms.py. So within our forms.py, I'm going to begin by importing our user creation form. So for me to be able to do that, I'm going to say from Django.contrib. In this case, I'm going to say .auth. I will go to the forms package, and then I'll import our user creation form. So once I have that, then I'll come right here, and all I have to do is to go ahead and basically create a class. So this is going to be our user. So I'll call it the user registration form. And this user registration form is actually going to subclass the user creation form. So I'll just basically come here and say that we shall subclass the user creation form. Now the user creation form is basically a model form, therefore it allows us to subclass it and add models, as well as the model, which is actually our user model, as well as the fields, so that we can be able to customize it in the way we want. So what I'm going to do is to come right here and define a class called the meta class, and within our meta class I'll have to add the model, which is going to be our user model. Luckily for us, instead of having to import it from wherever it is, we have a function still from Django.contrib.auth that can allow us to access our user model. So I'll go right here and I'll say from Django.contrib.auth, I'm going to import our get user model function. So when I have this get user model function, I'm going to have our user model being equal to get user model, or a call to the user model get user model function. So I'll define that and say that our model is going to be our user model, which is actually Django's inbuilt user model. So when I have that, then the next thing is going to be for me to define the fields. So the fields are those specific fields that we may want to include on this form that's going to allow us to create user accounts. Keep in mind that this form has more fields than what we're actually going to have right here, but it is just upon us to choose the fields that we may want to include. So what I'm going to do is to start with the username, and then we shall also have our email. And once we provided that, then we're going to have the password as well as the password confirmation. So those fields are password and then 1, and then we are going to also have password 2. So these are all fields that come from the user creation form that will allow us to create a basic sign up form. And once we have our user creation form created right here, so I'm going to close that panel, and then I'll go back to our views within our users app. So in here, the first thing I have to do is to basically import our form. So I'll just come right here and say from .forms, we are going to import our user registration form. And once we've been able to do that, now we can come right here and basically create that as an attribute to our sign up view class. So for us to do that, we shall just come and say form class, and our form class in that case will be our user registration form. We can also define another attribute, which is going to be the template. So we can say that our template is going to be equal to, so in this case we can call it auth/sign up. And this is where we shall have our template for signing up. This is actually going to be an HTML file. So once we've been able to do this, then we can be able to render the actual template that's going to basically render our sign up form. So when I go to our templates folder, which we have right here, I actually have this folder called auth. Now I can just basically, you need to just create it, and then I'll include my file, which is going to be my signup.html. So in here, we can basically inherit all we have from the base layout. So I'll do this by basically saying extends, and then I'll say base.html. To get here, I would advise that you check out the previous video, because most of the source code I'm building onto is from the previous video. I actually just did a little modification on the style so that it actually looks more appealing than it was in the previous video. So having said that, let us continue. So I'm going to come right here, and all I have to do is to say block content, and we are basically going to have block content and end block content, just like we have right here. So in here, we're going to create a simple h1, and this h1 is basically going to be having, so we're going to basically have some text. So shall have create your account. And once we have this, then we shall have a form that's going to allow us to basically create the user account. So for us to do that, we shall just say that this is going to be a form that's going to have a method of post. And in here, we shall have a CSRF token, which is going to allow us to submit a secure form that will not be hijacked by hackers. So in here, we shall also basically add a variable. So this variable is going to come from our context, just like we're going to see. So our variable here is going to be our form. Now we want to render this as a paragraph, so I'll say form.asp. And then I'll add a simple submit button to basically submit this form. So I'll just come and say that the value is going to be sign up. So once I've been able to create this template, I'll close it. Within our views, we are going to go ahead and render this template. So I'll remove my pass statement right here, and then I'll say return render. And in this case, we are going to have our request. And when we have our request, then since we have our template name being an attribute to our class, we can just say self.template name. So one other thing that we may need is to basically provide our form, or the user creation form, or the user registration form as part of our template. Now, for us to be able to do that, we shall have to first of all create a form object. So I'll say that we're going to have this being self.form class. Now, this is the beauty of class-based views. You basically access everything from your view as an attribute. So we can just come and say self.form class, and we shall basically create a context dictionary right here. And within here, I can say that we're going to have our form, and this form is going to be the form object that we've created. If we want to include this within our template, then we shall just have to add our context to our render function. So now that this is done, we are going to basically create a URL where we shall basically access this specific sign up view. So for us to do that, I'm going to go within our users app and create a new file. I'm going to call this urls.py. And within our urls.py, we're going to have a list of URL patterns for our users app. Now I'm going to first of all begin by importing the path function from Django. So I'll say from Django import path. And once I've been, this is actually from Django.urls. Sorry for that mistake. So this is going to be from Django.urls import path. And in this case, we shall have our list of URL patterns. Now the way I'm generating this, but just typing URL patterns, is I'm using an extension called the Django extension, which is very useful. You should check it out for VS Code. Now let's continue. So in here, I can also say something like path and then inline. So this will basically generate the structure of a valid URL pattern. So here I have to call this sign up, and I'll provide the view. So I'll have to import our views. So in here, I'm going to say views dot, this will be our sign up view, if I'm not mistaken. So I have to import it. So I'll say from dot, we shall import our views. And by dot, I'm actually meaning the views.py file right here within our directory. So once I've been able to do that, then the next thing is going to be for me to give it a name. This name is going to be want to allow us to access this specific view from our templates. So in here, I'll just have to basically call it sign up. This will basically allow us to redirect to access it from our page dynamically. So what I'll do is to go ahead and save, hoping that my server is running. Indeed, it is running. So if we go ahead and access this, of course, it's not going to work because we do not have it attached to our project URLs. So if we want it to work with our project, then all we have to do is to head over to our main project URLs, which is in taskproject.urls. Now in here, we basically have the admin URLs, the tasks URLs, and I'm going to go ahead and add our auth URLs. So everything in our users app, or all the URLs in our users app, will be accessed via the auth prefix. So in this case, we shall basically come and say include, and we shall provide the URL. So these are going to be the ones that are accessed within our users.urls.py, but for us to basically simplify that, we shall say users.urls. Sorry for this. So when I go ahead and save, now the next thing we're going to do is to try to access our URL for sign up. So if we go back to our browser right here, this is the application with the styles, just like I told you. So what we're going to do is to add a sign up link in our header. So for us to be able to achieve that, we are going to go to our base.html, and that's located within our root of our templates directory, just like you see right here. So I'm going to close this, and in here I'm going to add a link to our sign up page. So I'll just copy this and add it right here. So instead of create tasks, we shall add the URL name, which we actually called sign up. So I'll just come right here and say sign up, and then also I'll change this text to our sign up. So once I have that, then if we go here and refresh, shall notice that our sign up link is being shown right here. So if we click on it, we now see that this is actually redirecting us to our sign up page, just like you see right here. Now the CSS for this is already written, so you don't need to basically tamper with it, and I'm going to leave a link to the source code as it is right now in the link down below. So what we need right now is to handle the submission of this form. For now, we have the form being rendered, but we have not yet submitted it, so we have not yet handled what happens when we submit the form. So for us to be able to do this, what we're going to do is to handle the post request. But before I handle the post request, we need to redirect to a certain page in case we have successfully created basically in case we've been able to create our user from this form. So what I'll do is to go to our views.py, and I'll create a second view class. So instead of actually creating this, I'm going to refer to Django's inbuilt view, which is basically the login view. And what the login view allows us to do is to allow the user to create a session or be able to log in into our application by using their credentials, such as the username and the password. So what I'm going to do is to head over to our URLs for our users, and instead of building the view for our login view, I'll actually use the inbuilt login view that's given to us by Django. So what I'll do is to go at the top right here and import our URLs from Django. So I'll say from Django.contrib.auth. So this is actually going to be contrib.auth. We shall import our views, and in this case I'll basically import them as auth views. So what I'm going to do in this case is to go right down here, and what I have to do is to go ahead and basically call some of these authentication views. So the first one I'm going to call is going to be our login view. So I'll create a path, and I'll just basically say inline. So this is going to be our login view, and actually give it a path of login. So our view is going to be auth views. So sorry for this. So this will be auth views dot, in this case shall have our login view, then dot as view. Then in here, what we have to specify is the template name. Now the reason as to why we have to specify a template name is because Django, when we don't specify a template page or a template name, is going to go ahead and use the admin login, which we do not want. We want this to be custom or be the template that we decide to be. So what I'm going to do is to go right in here and I'm going to provide our template name. So just going to come right in here within dot as view, and I'll have to provide an attribute. So I'll say template name, and our template name in this case is going to be auth/login.html. So once I've been able to provide this template, then I'll go ahead and give this a name. Let me just keep it simple. I'll keep it login. And once I have this, then the next thing is going to be for me to go and create this specific template. So that means I'll have to go within our auth and then create a new file, which I'm going to call my login.html. So login.html will have similar markup to our sign up page. So I'll just copy our sign up page and provide it in here. Instead of create your account, shall now say login to your account. And then in here we shall just basically provide the value for sign up, but this will actually be login. So because we're actually trying to log in into the application. So once we've been able to do this, then let's go ahead and try to add the URL for our, or the link to our login page into our base.html. So I'm going to access our base.html. So let me close this, and then I'll basically go right in here, copy this link, and then I'll paste it right here. So instead of sign up, we shall have login. And actually, let me just keep it to login. And then for the URL name still, we shall have the name, just like we called it here, which is actually login. Good. So if we go back right here, when we refresh, we shall now see that we have our login link right here. But if we click on this login link, then we shall have our template being rendered here. And you see that this actually requires us to provide a username as well as our password. Now the beauty is we do not have to write view function code for us to be able to achieve this, since Django is going to basically provide for us this specific view just like we have right here. So let's go ahead and handle our user creation. So for us to handle our user creation, I'm going to go within our sign up, and then I'm going to write the view code or the method of our post method, which is actually what will happen when you submit this form. So I'm going to go right within our views.py, still within our users app. And what I'm going to do is to add on to where we stopped. Now, the first thing we shall have to do within our post request is to handle the data that will be submitted via this post request. And the way we shall do that is by creating a form object. And this form object is going to be our class, which is our form class. So I'll access that via form class or self.form class. Now in this case, we shall have our data, and this data is going to be the data that will be submitted with the post request. And the way we access this is via request.post. So this is actually request.post. Now once we've been able to do this, then I'm going to go ahead and basically check if this form is valid. So for us to do that, I'll just come and say if form.isValid. So this will return true or false depending on whether the form is valid or not. If the form is valid, then we wish to just save the user. Since this is the user creation form, it will just basically create a user object. Then we shall just save the form and save that user account to our database. So that means that we shall just call a simple form.save. And when we've been able to do this, then we shall basically redirect to our login page. So I'll just come and say return render, and then here we shall return our request So in this case, we shall also provide our, actually we're not rendering, but what we want to do is to redirect. So I'll have to first of all import our redirect function from Django.shortcuts. So I'll come and say from Django.shortcuts, then shall have to import our redirect function. So once we've been able to do that, I'll come right here and say redirect. So in here we shall have to use the reverse function. So I also have to import that. So what this is going to allow us to do is to access the URL from its URL name. If you've checked our app configs right here, then these are the names that I'm referring to. So if you go back here and we say that we want to redirect to reverse login, so I'll have to also import reverse since it's not defined. I'll just come and say from Django.urls, we are going to import our reverse. And once we've been able to do this, then I'll just go ahead and basically handle what will happen if the form is not valid. So if the form is not valid, still what we shall do is to render the form. So I'll just come right in here and I will basically come, copy this and paste it right here to just render the form with the template. Another thing that we need to do is to also go ahead and show some kind of message in case our user has successfully been created. Now I'm going to be using Django's messaging framework to do that. So if you go within our settings.py and we check within our installed apps, we shall see that Django provides for us the messages framework that's going to allow us to be able to do exactly that. So I'll close this, and what I have to do is to go ahead and then import our messages. So I'll just come and say from Django.contrib, it's going to be Django contrib. We shall import our messages, and once we've been able to import our messages, then I'm going to come right here after saving and we have successfully created our user. Now I'm going to just basically say that we shall have messages. We shall just create a pop-up message, or we shall show a message that's going to actually show that the user has been created. So in this case, it's going to be a success message, and this will take in our request object for this view function and then the message. So our message in this case is going to be equal to let's just say user created successfully. So just going to add user created successfully. Now that you've been able to do this, let's go ahead and just try to modify our base template so that we can show these messages. So what I'll do is to come within our base template here, and before I actually render our content, I'm just going to basically provide our messages. So what I have to do is to say for, in this case I'll say for message, in this case I'll say for message in messages, and I'll go ahead and basically provide a list of messages. So I'll say URL, and in this case it's actually going to be a URL or unordered list, and this unordered list will basically have a list of messages. Now let's just put this out. So just filling some basic HTML here, but we shall create a URL and then we shall basically render list items within this unordered list, just like you see right here. So let me tidy this up a little bit, and yeah, so in here we shall provide our list items. So let me remove this. So in here we shall have our specific messages, so we shall basically provide our messages. So this will actually be our message. So for each of the messages that we shall have, we shall render them just like you see right here. So I'm also going to go ahead and basically check if our messages exist. So I'll basically come right here and say if messages, then we shall basically go ahead and loop through the messages and then show the messages just like you see right here. So when I'm done with this, then let's go ahead and try to actually test our user creation. So for us to do that, then I'm just going to refresh our page right here, and then I'll provide a username here. So I'm going to begin with my user, and then I'll provide the email address. This actually exists, I think. So what I have to do is to provide another user. So I'll say admin, and then I'll provide the email address. So I'll say admin@gmail.com, and then I'll provide the password right here. So I'll say the password is going to be that, and then I'll also provide another password right here. So if we go ahead and try to sign up, we shall see that our user has been created successfully, which is working successfully. Then let's try to actually walk through our login step. So the thing with using our login view that Django provides is we have to change our settings to show the view that we shall use, which is actually the URL where our login page is going to be displayed, as well as where we shall have to redirect in case we have a successful login. Now, for us to be able to do that, we shall have to basically create some setting variables within our project settings. So I'm going to go back to our code, and what I have to do is to go right where we have our settings.py, that's within our project, and I'm going to go at the extreme bottom and then create a setting for our login settings. So I'm just going to basically call this login settings. And for these login settings, I'm going to first of all set the login URL. So this will be our login URL. And this login URL is basically going to be our /auth/login, which is the URL that we have right here. So I'll copy it, and then I'll basically provide it here. Then we shall also have to have the login redirect URL, which is basically going to be one that's going to allow us to basically redirect in case we have a successful login. So I'm just going to come and provide that here. So I'll say login and then redirect URL. So let me fix this right here. So when I come here, I'm going to basically come and provide the root URL or our home page. So that means that after a successful login, then we'll have to redirect to our home page. So now that we have this, let's go ahead and try to basically log in with our login page. So what I'm going to do is to go back right here, and I'm just going to come and provide our username. So I'll provide admin, and then I'll give a password, and I'll go ahead and click on login. So now it seems like we have an incorrect password. So we've been told to enter a correct username and password. So I'll provide our name, admin, and then I'll provide my password. So let me try to provide my password again. If I try to log in this time, we're now going to see that we've been able to log in. But if you're to notice, one thing is we can basically see our sign up and login links, which we are not supposed to be seeing in case a user has actually logged in, because they already have an account and they are logged in. So that means we have to modify our links in our header so that they display different things when the user is logged in, when the user is logged out. So for us to achieve this, I'm going to go within our base HTML file right here, and then I'm going to make use of an if-else statement within our Django template. So I'll come and say if else, and in this case, we shall basically have to check if the user is authenticated. So I'll say if user dot is authenticated. Here I'll just come right here and provide our URLs or our links. Then I'll also provide the same links right here. So what we're going to do is to modify this according to what we may want to display if the user is logged in or logged out. So I'm going to begin with our links for our when the user is authenticated. So we shall not have the sign up and login views. And another link we are going to actually have is the one for logout. So I'm going to add that, but we do not have its URL, but we are going to create it later. So I'm going to come right here and basically add this. So I'll just come and say that this is going to be logout, and I'll also have add task. So this is actually going to be log out. And once I have this, then when you go back and refresh, we shall see that logout is not found. So we shall have to basically create that. So the first thing I'm going to do is to go within our settings.py, and then I'll add more login settings. So these are actually going to be the logout settings. And the first one is going to be, so I'll copy what we have here. So this is actually going to be what we have here. And instead of being log in, it's going to be auth/logout. And then we shall also change this from login URL to logout URL. We shall also change our login redirect URL to our logout redirect URL. So we're going to also modify that. And then instead of redirecting to our URL, we are going to redirect to our login page. So in this case, I'll say shall redirect to /auth, then /login. So once I've been able to do this, then the next thing is going to be for me to set up the logout URL. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll head over to our URLs right here. And within our URL patterns, we are going to add another URL patterns. But this URL pattern is going to be from our Django authentication views. So I'm going to come right here and then I'll say path. So I'm going to say path inline. And I'll first of all provide our, so this will be our path, which is logout. And in this case, our view is going to be auth views. And in this case, shall say .LogOutView. So right, we do not need a template here, but we shall need our name. So I'll basically call this logout. And when we have that, then if we go ahead and refresh, we shall now see that we're having home, create tasks, and then logout. So if we go to our base.html, we have these links being shown when the user is logged in, and then you also have these links being shown. So I actually have to get rid of the create task so that we basically access it only when we are logged in. We're also going to look at how we can protect these views so that we can access them only when we log in. So I'm going to save, and after saving, I'll also indent this a little bit so that it's readable. So if we go right here and we try to log out, we now see that it actually logs us out and we can be able to log in once again. So I'm going to provide my name, and then I'll also provide the password. So if we go ahead and log in, we now see that both our login and logout functionality are working fine. Another thing we shall have to do is to take care of our password management, just like we're going to see right now. As to understand how Django helps us to reset our passwords, we're going to look at two scenarios. So the first one is where you will have to log in, but then you've forgotten your password. And that is where the password reset views come in. So I've created a simple diagram to just basically show the flow of how these password reset views work. There are also what is called password change views. So these password change views are those that allow a user to change their password when they are actually logged in. So this is when a user has not forgotten their password, but they may want to reset their password for security purposes. And we're going to look at how each of these work right now. So the simple flow of a password reset when using Django is basically password reset view. So you use the password reset view, and then you go to the password reset done view. Then as you're using the password reset done view, you're actually calling the functionality of the password reset confirm view. And then after that, you'll be presented to the password reset complete view. So what happens is when you're using the password reset view, your user has to submit an email address for which an email with instructions on how to reset their password are given. And once these instructions have been sent successfully, then the password reset done view will be displayed. So this basically shows the user that an email has been sent to their email address, and they should check for it for instructions on how to reset their password. So right after that is done, then the email that will be sent will actually have a link, and this link will belong to the password reset confirm view. So when the user uses this password reset confirm view, they'll be able to be shown a place where they'll securely change their password, and then after them changing their password, they'll be presented with a template from the password reset complete view. So if you find this kind of confusing, then I'm going to walk you through how it's done, and then you shall see how simple it actually is. So let's go ahead and start this. So what I'm going to do is to go back to our code, and within our code let me start by closing what we have right here. So I'm going to close some of the code that we have right here, for example the forms, the base template, and we're going to get started by using our URLs module right here. So within our users urls.py, we're going to define our password reset views. So to begin, I'll also access our login page. So on our login page, we're going to add a simple link that users will use in case they have forgotten their password. So I'm just going to come right here and basically create the link before our submit button, and I'll just come right here and say that this is going to be forgot password. So once we have that, then I'm going to go ahead and basically access our login. So when I go back to our app, by access our login, we now have this link for forgot password, which currently does not redirect anywhere. So let's begin setting up our Django authentication password reset URLs. So all these are class-based views that we can access via our authentication views. So I'll go ahead and first of all access our password reset view. So to do that, I'll say path, and instead of inline, I'll say stack, which is basically going to organize them in this way. So in this case, I'll have to come and say password reset. So I'll modify this to password reset. And when I have this, then I'll also have to define our view. So our view is going to be auth views dot password reset view. And once we have this, then I'll have to also specify a template that's going to be rendered in case we want to reset our password. Now in this case, I'll just come right here, and within the .as view, I'll provide an argument or an attribute, and this is going to be our template name. Now this template name, in this case, I'll call it auth/password reset.html. Now this password reset HTML is going to be a template in our templates folder, so I'll create it and I'll call this password reset.html. So what will happen here is we shall have a form where we're basically going to provide our email address. So when you provide this email address, of course, we expect that when we click submit, an email will be sent with instructions on how to reset our password. So I'll just basically copy the form that we've had for our login, and I'll basically paste it in here, but I'll make some changes. So instead of logging into your account, in this case, we shall have reset your. So this is going to actually be reset your password. And once you have this, then I'll also remove the forgot password link. And then instead of having our login value right here, we are going to go ahead and have our submit value. So what is going to happen is when a user tries to access this page, we are going to basically have to provide the email address that's going to be associated with that account, and then an email is going to be sent to them from which they'll access a link to redirect them from where they'll change their password. So what I'll do is to come right here and say paragraph, and here we shall maybe give them a hint. So shall just have to say provide email associated with your account. So it's actually going to be with your account. So once they come here, they provide the email address, they submit, and email is sent. So for us to be able to achieve this, then I'm going to go and first of all provide the name right here. So I'll keep it to password reset. So this is actually going to be password reset. And once we've been able to do this, then I'll come and update our login page so that we actually have that password reset link working. So I'll say password reset. It's actually going to be a URL. So let me fix this by using the URL tag. So if you're wondering how I'm generating this, I'm using the generic extension. So I'll come right here and say password reset, save. When you go back right here, we are going to refresh, and in this case, if we click on the link, we shall basically be redirected to that specific place where we're actually having provide email address associated with your account. So this is where they'll provide their email address. So if at all you try to submit this, now let me try to add the user's email. So I'll say admin@gmail.com. If it takes this, then we are supposed to basically send them an email. And in this case, we see that the reverse for password reset is not found, which means this view is not yet in existence. So we'll have to create it, but before you actually create it, let's just create one for the password reset done. So I'm going to copy this path and basically paste it twice. And instead of having password reset, in this case, we're going to first of all have password reset done. And in this case, instead of having password reset view, I'll modify this to be password reset done. Or in case we want to clarify it, we may just get rid of this and be able to add it when you are sure of the spelling. So instead of having password reset, so I'll also create password reset done. So this is just a simple template that's going to show the user that yes, the email has been sent. Go and check it. So if you go within our templates, I'll go ahead and add a new file, which I'm going to call password. So this is going to be password reset, and this will be done.html. So once I've been able to do this, then I'm just going to extend our template. So be base.html, and then I'm going to come and say block. So this will be content, and then I'll basically provide that. Actually, it's going to be an h1. So in here, I shall say password reset email sent. So in this case, I'll just tell them password reset email sent. Then paragraph here, I shall say that an email has been sent to help you. So this is actually going to be to help you reset your password. So once we've been able to do that, then I guess we shall have done for the password reset done. So I'll also modify the name to be password reset done. Now, while we send this email, we are actually supposed to create a template for that email that we're actually sending. And that has to be the password reset email. So I'm going to go ahead and create a template that will be the email that will be sent when this is occurring. So I'll go within our auth, create a new file, and I'll call this our password. So this is actually going to be our password reset email.html. So once we've been able to create our password reset email, then we shall have to provide some info that's going to be sent as the email. And in this case, I'll say greetings from tasks app. Then we shall basically provide the link. So shall just say, please use this link. So shall maybe say, please use this link to reset your password. And once we have this, then we're basically going to come and provide the link right here. So Django provides for us a specific way in which we can come up with this link, and I'm going to make it simple for you guys. So all we have to do is to first define the protocol. So that's the HTTP that's within the URL. And after that, then we shall have to provide that specific colon and then // after which we shall provide the domain. So in case our domain is, let's say, admin.com, then that will be the domain. So in this case, we shall basically provide our domain. And after the domain, then we need to specify the URL that is going to be for that specific, that's going to allow us to access the specific link for resetting our password. So for us to be able to do that, we are going to come and provide this as our URL. So I'll say URL, and this URL in this case is going to be the URL for our password reset confirm. Now we have not yet set it up, but let's go ahead and work on it. So we shall provide our path and call this our reset / in this case shall say confirm. And then since this is going to be unique for every time a user makes a request to reset their email, then Django handles this in a way that you have to have a UID B64 as well as a token. So for security purposes, we generate a new link in case a user has to create or basically modify their password. So the other thing we're going to basically modify here is going to be the thing we're going to modify is going to be the view name. So in this case, it's going to be the PasswordResetConfirmView. And here we don't need a template. So I'm just going to get rid of this template right here. So now that we've got rid of that, we're also going to get rid of that. So and provide our name as PasswordResetConfirm. So I think this is it. So if we go back to our password reset email, then we shall have to provide our URL as our password reset confirm URL. So I provide the name right here. And then since this requires the token and the UID B64, so I'll just come and say UID B64 is going to be equal to UID B64. And then we shall also have our token. So all these are arguments within our path. So in this case, we shall have our token being our token. So this will be automatically generated by Django. So this is something that is going to be similar to what we shall use to send the email. Another thing we shall do is to set up an email backend that's going to allow us to send the email. Now in production, you may do something like setting up Google to be your SMTP server, but in development you may choose to use the console backend. Now in this case, I'm in development, so I'm going to be using the console backend to handle how we're going to send these emails. So to start, I'm going to first of all close what I have right here, and then I'm going to head over to our settings.py. So I'm going to press Ctrl and E and then settings. So within our settings, I'm going to go where we have our, so in this case, I'm actually just going to come and create that email setting. So I'll add email settings, and I'm going to add our email backend settings. So this is going to be the setting of our email backend, and our email backend in this case is going to be Django. So shall have Django.core.mail.backend. So in this case, since we're going to access the console backend, we shall just say .console.email. It's actually going to be our email backend. So once we have been able to do this, then let us go ahead and complete our password reset. So for us to complete this, I'll go to our URL and then add the final view, which is going to be the one to display our success message when our password has been basically reset. So for us to do that, then I'm just simply going to copy what we have here, and I'll add this as our path. So in this case, our path is going to be our reset complete. So this is not going to actually take in any params, so I'll just remove what we have here. So I'll just come right here and say auth dot, so this will be password reset complete. So complete.hasView. So we shall also need the template for this. I'll just come and provide the template name, and this template name is going to be let's say our auth slash, this is actually going to be our password reset, and in this case we shall have complete .html. So once we have this, then let's go ahead and try to basically create the template. So for us to create the template, we shall go where we have our auth folder, and then in here we shall basically call it our password reset complete .html. So this is actually going to be similar to what we have here. So I'm just going to come and copy it and paste it in here. So once I've been able to do this, then I'll actually also add the login link. So this is actually not going to be password email sent. It's actually going to be password has been reset successfully. So I'll just come and say password reset successfully. And then for that email has been sent, I'll modify this to basically you can log in. So I can say you can now log in. I'll add the login link right here. So I'll say you can log in, and in here I'll provide the URL for logging in. So I'll say URL and I'll add login. So once we've been able to do this, now let us try to test our password reset functionality, hoping that everything is going on well. So if I pull up my terminal, our server is running. So if I go right here and try to go back where I reset our email, so right here, if we try to provide our admin@gmail.com and submit, we see that our password reset email has been sent. So since we set up our console backend, in this case, if we try to log or be able to look into our output or our console right here, we shall see a dummy email that has been sent to us. So this is basically telling us we've been receiving this email, and it's giving us this link for resetting our password. So what this can be, if you have, let's say, facebook.com as your domain, you'll have something like http facebook.com auth blah blah blah, and then this will be the link that will be provided to reset the password. So if you go ahead and try to access this link, I'll basically follow the link, and this will basically lead us to this page. So one thing that we've done is to basically not override the page that Django provides for us, or to customize it. So for us to be able to do that, I'm going to first of all go to where we have the password reset confirm, and then I'm going to change and provide the template. So I'll come and say that we shall need our template, and our template name in this case is going to be /auth. So it's going to be /auth and then password reset confirm .html. So once I've been able to do this, then I'm going to go ahead and create this same HTML page. So I'll just come right in here within our auth folder, create it. So I'll do password reset confirm HTML, and then in here I'll have to basically provide our form. So this is actually going to be reset your password, and then instead of having this message, we shall basically provide this form right here. So if we save and refresh, we shall see that instead of having Django's default form, we are actually going to have our own form, which is actually amazing. So if we go ahead and provide our password, our new password, we shall say password, and then we'll provide the confirmation right here. So I'll just come and say our new password has been set. So if we submit, we now see that our password cannot be similar to our personal information, and our password is actually too common, just like we see right here. So I'm going to reset it to a new password. So I'll just come and provide a new password right here, and then I'll confirm it. So after confirming it, then I'll submit, and now we see password reset complete not found. I think we did a mistake, so let me go to my URLs right here. This is actually reset complete. I forgot to change the name right here. So if we said reset complete and saved, if we go back right here, we try to continue, we now see that the template has been rendered, but our form is not showing, meaning that it has actually worked. So if we try to do it again, if we say forgot password, we try to access our, let me just provide our email and then submit password reset email sent. So if we go to our console, we now received an email right here, and this is actually containing this link. So if we try to access it, we go back this side, we are seeing that we can reset our password. So if we reset our password and we provide a new password, so if I submit, we now see that our password has been reset successfully, which means that we've been able to successfully work on our password reset functionality. So right now we've been able to look at all these Django password reset views. Now let's go ahead and also look at the password change views. So for us to do that, I'm going to log in, since all these views need to log in. So password reset views and password change views are basically different in a way that the password reset views allow a user who has forgotten their password to reset their password. However, the password change views allow the user to basically go ahead and change their password for security reasons, or maybe if they want to just modify their password. So for me to be able to do this, I'm going to go ahead and log in. So I'm going to log in with my user admin, then I'll provide a password. It's actually going to be password. So if I log in, we're now going to be able to access our page, which is wonderful. So right now what I'm going to do is to add a page that's going to allow the user to reset their password or change their password in this case. So if we try to do that, I'm going to go and first of all add a link to our base template. So I'm going to look for our base template right here, and in this case what I need to do is to go ahead and add a settings page. So in this case what I'll do is to just come right here, and then I'll basically provide a link, and this link is going to be to our settings page. So on our settings page, we are actually going to access a settings page where I shall basically go ahead and access these links for setting or basically changing the password. So I'll just basically go ahead and create this page. Now I'm going to create a view for it. Let me just actually create it in our tasks app. So I'll just come in our tasks app, and within our views.py, I'm just going to come right here, and all I have to do is to create a class, and I'm going to call this class our settings view. So this will actually be very similar to the views that we've been writing. So it's going to also inherit from the view class. And in here, we expect to have only one method, which is going to be the get method. So I'll basically provide self as well as the request object, and I'll have to render the template. So I'll say return render, and then here we shall say request, and we shall also provide the template name. So I'm just going to come and provide the template name. So in here, we expect the template name to be settings.html. So once I have that, then I can come here and say that shall render the template name. So I'll just come and create that template so that we can actually access it. So that's going to be in our templates, and we shall have our settings.html. So once I've been able to do that, since we have it within our base.html, if I go ahead and refresh, we see that reverse for strings don't found. I think I forgot to create its URL, so let me go ahead and look for the URLs for our tasks, and then I'll just simply go ahead and create a new path, and this path will be the one for our settings. So just come and say settings, and then in here we shall just come and say views dot, in this case we shall say settings dot as view, and we shall basically provide our name, and this is going to be our settings. So having done this, then we can be able to access our settings. So if we refresh this site, then we shall see that our settings link is being shown. So on our settings link, I'm going to go ahead and access it. It's currently a blank page. So for us to be able to actually modify it, I'm going to start by extending our template or our base template. So I'll say extends base.html, and then we shall begin by saying block. So it's actually going to be block content, then in block content. So once I've been able to do this, then I basically also provide links. So the first one, so I'll just basically create lists. So just going to come and create a list, and this list is actually going to be one for resetting the password. So I'll just come and say change password, and once I have this, then in here I can maybe give this a class, and this class is going to be the one similar to what we had for the tasks. Then in here, what I have to do is to actually provide this text within a link. So I provide our URL. So this is going to actually be the URL for our password change. So just come and provide this, but we haven't yet implemented it actually. So if I come and say password change, in here we shall just basically come and say change password. So that's actually going to be the one for changing password. Then I'll add maybe the one for logout. So I'll just come and say it's going to be li.task, and then we shall have an anchor tag with a URL. So it's actually going to be a URL for logout. So in here we shall basically have the text for logout. Okay, so once we've been able to do this, then if we try to access our settings page, we're now going to see that our password change view is not existing. So let's go ahead and implement that. So I'll go to our URLs, and within our URLs, now we're going to add the password change views. So these password change views are going to come. So what I have to do is to just come right here, and I'll basically come and add another path or URL config right here. So instead of having reset, this is actually going to be password change. So I'll change the URL to password change, and in here we shall have auth views dot. So this is actually going to be our password change view, and then we shall also have one for our password change done view. But let me actually change this to PasswordChange.html, and then we shall have the name being password change. So I'm going to change this to that. So if I refresh, we now expect it's going to stop. So hoping that we don't have any errors. We now see change password and then log out, which is good. But right now we actually don't have this template existing. So if we go right within our templates, in our auth templates, we're going to create that. So I'll say password change.html, and in here it's going to basically have a form. So I'll copy some of the forms that I have in here, and then I'll paste it in here. So this is actually going to be change your password. So I'll just come and say change your password, and in this case we shall have what we have in here. So if we go ahead and try to access this change password link, we're now going to see that it's actually going to provide for us this form, which is going to have old password, new password, and then new password confirmation. So once we submit this, then we shall be able to change our password. So let's try to do that. So if we change our password, so I'm going to basically provide our password in here. Actually, I'll provide our old password. So our old password was that. Then I also provide our new password. And our new password is going to be, so when I submit, we're now going to see that our password change done is not found. So let's go ahead and work on that. So what I'll do is to go right where we have so in this case, I'll begin by creating our password change done. So I'll just create a new file and then call it password change. It's actually going to be password change done.html. And then in here, I'm going to go ahead and copy some of the content I have in here. So I'll close this and then I'll provide what we have here. So password. So this will be password changed. And then I'll basically go ahead and provide a link to the home page. So I'll just come and say go to home page. So in this case, I'll just come and say go to home. So in this case, we shall have our URL for our home page. So I'll say URL, and then this is going to be to our home. So shall have our home page. So this is going to be the template that will be rendered. However, the URL is going to be in our users app. So I'll have to also add this. So I'll add the path. So the path will be password change and then /done. So, and then this is also going to be password change done. And then we shall also have this being password change done. So this will actually be the name, which we shall also change to password. It's actually not password change, but this will be actually password change done and password change done. Oh, I actually forgot that. That's showing that I'm tired. Anyway, when we refresh and continue, we now see that we are required to log in for us to be able to change our password. So if I go right here and try to log in, so I'm actually trying to access this with the admin account, and then I provide this password. I log in. We shall now access our change password view right here. So in case we try to change our password, so I provide our password. It's actually our old password. And then I'll provide a new password right here. So I'll provide or confirm my new password and then submit. So right now we see that the reverse for home is not found. So let's actually see where this is coming from. This is actually coming from our page. I think this is supposed to be from password change done, where we actually say URL for home. And if that's home, let me actually say our URLs for our tasks. We call that home page. Oh, so if we go and change this to home page, I think that's password change done, and then we change this to home page. When I save and refresh, shall see that our password has been changed, and then you can go back to our home page. So if you go back to our home page, now everything works successfully. In this video, I've been able to walk you through Django's authentication views, and these are basically class-based views that basically allow us to handle authentication without having to break our backs writing view function code. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I would like to request that you leave a like on this video if you've liked it. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. I have similar content like this on this YouTube channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video about class-based views in Django.